Did that problem?
What did you do?
Did you want a contractor?
Yeah.
I called the agent on Friday, I was in town. I went back to town, so I see him again. I said, let me know if you could. She said,
Yeah,
absolutely.
this time was some real.
And I told her this morning about, you go to the bus, I said, hey, you should go this afternoon. She said, it's in the contract. And she said,
Yeah, and she went and looked at it this time, cause she seen it this week, and she turned around and looked at it. Then she was showing it to me and everything. She said,
I have what? A roof project?
it's got a lane,
I don't
the
know,
way
because I
it
just,
was flat,
this is the
and it's
first day.
complete rectangle, you know, there ain't
I had
no
looked
off
at
here.
myself.
I said, how should you afford a price?
I think this is gonna be a decent season.
And everything, so.
Yeah.
He should look on something, he showed up a contract.
Make the speech on there. In the speech, I was worried I was going to fall down or slip my hands. No one real good. Rapid break or.
You know, your question.
Maybe one. The what? I forgot. I left it in my voice.
Let's have order in this chamber. I'm going to ask Fred Nelson to figure out the turn flames. Prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, who is creator of all things, you who created the earth and the heavens. Bow humbly before you this evening, grateful, God, to be able to come together this evening, take care of the town's business. Thank you for the many blessings that you bestow upon us. We ask, God, that everything that is done this evening be pleasing in thy sight, that there is clarity and dispatch. We ask, God, also, as always, that you watch over our servicemen and women, wherever they may be, whether domestic or foreign. Also, that you watch over our first responders as they go about their daily duties. We ask, God, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Let's stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
to be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Opposed, no. The purpose of our meeting tonight is twofold. The first part is to have a public hearing on the I-95, I-40 Crossroads of America Economic Development Alliance Incorporated. $50,000 expenditure for that. And the second part would be to give all the commissioners, after we finish with the public hearing, give all the commissioners a chance. We'll go around the table and let them express anything that they've seen in the documents that they don't agree with, and if they don't agree with it, what do you think it should be? I gave everybody a full set the last part of March, and I hope everybody has looked at them so that they'll be able to talk. The whole document is important, but the memorandum of understanding is a document that will be lasting. And the Economic Development Alliance consists of the city of Dunn in Harney County, North Carolina, the town of Benson, and the town of Four Oaks, are each located in Johnson County, and all of them located on I-95 or either in close proximity of Interstate 40. Interstate 95 runs from Miami to Maine. I-40 runs from Wrightsville Beach to Barstow, California, and they cross at the edge of Benson. The purpose of the alliance is to allow the three towns to be in a group that will have the opportunity, by having one point of discussion and one point of reference, that people will know where to go if they're on I-95 between exit 70 and exit 90. That area goes 2 miles east and 2 miles west, and that makes up the formation of the alliance. The Articles of Incorporation, Tillman Pope is authorized and directed to execute and incorporate the Articles of Incorporation in the forms that were shown in Exhibit B. And the main point that we got to make is, within 45 days after perfecting the corporation of the alliance and submitting the 501c3 application as set forth above, each of Benson, Dunn, and Four Oaks agreed to contribute the alliance $50,000, the initial contribution. The alliance shall use the initial contribution as determined by the board to include, but not limited to, hiring an executive director and expenses associated therewith. Benson, Dunn, and Four Oaks agree to make annual future contributions of $50,000 per fiscal year for a period of 2 years following the initial contribution. I now open the public hearing. The rules of the road is, if you want to speak, you should sign in at the back. If you want to speak, you have 3 minutes. This is not a hearing that you have to swear in the people that's going to speak. Anybody that wants to speak in favor of the I-95, I-40, Crossroads of America Economic Development Alliance Incorporated, come forward.
I'm Will Chandler, and I'm not speaking for it or against it because I don't know enough about it. This is one of the most secretive things that I've been aware of, and I hear little bits and pieces. And just want y'all to remember, back in the 70s, when this board set up here and decided to go with an alliance with electric cities, because we were all going to join together because the power was going to go so high with CP&L and the other power companies that we needed an alliance to get together. And I think we've seen over the years what it costs us. I just want y'all to be real sure as to what you're doing and what's the limitations on this. We go into an alliance with Dunn and we go into alliance with Four Oaks, I can see the Johnson County alliance because we are the largest crossroads. Benson is the largest crossroads in the United States. We got Interstate 95 and Interstate 40 that crosses right here. It doesn't cross in Dunn or between Dunn and Benson. It crosses right here in Johnson County. Does this $50,000, once you get in the alliance, are we ever able, say it doesn't work in 4 years. I mean, if there was a limit, yeah, we're going to try this thing for 3 years and then we meet again and we're not going to stay in the alliance, or we're going to do another 3 years or 4 years or whatever. Or is it an ongoing thing that you can never get out of? We can never get out of electric cities. We came real close, but you can't buy yourself out of electric cities because you don't have that kind of money. Now, some parts of this I understand. I understand it's good. They want our sewer, we want their water. But what happens if we go ahead and look at the big picture here? We've got to have industry coming into Benson, and it's coming. But you have got to have the infrastructure for it to come. So what's it going to cost Benson in taxes and grants or whatever to go ahead and bite the bullet and say we're going to borrow it over the next 30 years, $15 million, and have water and sewer that comes in? My time's up.
Yes, sir.
Don't get anything from what I said. Like I said, I'm not for it or against it because I just don't know it. If it would have been more open to me, I would have tried to have got people, but you got to understand who you're doing business with and who's out to do what. Who wants the majority? You tell me a big plant's coming in and Dunn's got a chance to get it. I don't know that we would have a chance with the alliance to do anything about it.
Thanks, Will. Anyone else want to come and speak in favor of the alliance? Anyone to come and speak opposed to the alliance? Anyone else want to come and speak against the alliance? No one else coming forward? I close the public hearing. I'm gonna start now going around the room and getting the feedback from the board members, and then we'll decide what we're gonna do about it. Max, you wanna start?
Okay. You know, I've spent all day looking over this word by word, letter by letter, and I've got some things that my time runs out. I don't know. You can get time. I know it's not 3 minutes, but I can go on and on about it. But I've got some things at the end I want you guys to consider, and I think we all kind of are thinking the same thing. You know, I understand that, like Will said, you know, that it could be a good idea, but we've got to make sure that we've got all the I's dotted, the T's crossed, make sure that we have control and that we don't do something that contractually that puts us in a place that we can't get back from. And so I'm going to run through on the memorandum of understanding, because that really is the only document that matters, because they can change anything else they want in the contract. We can talk about that too. But the first thing, I'm going to just run through all my points, and then I'm going to run through the things I want you to think about. The first thing is that I'm not certain, I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, exactly where it should be that all events and all 4 Oaks are included and half the Dunn is included. That's because it's a 2-mile radius and Dunn's bigger than it. We would consider, should it be a Dunn 2 or not? I'm not saying, but that's not a major thing. The first thing, and through the whole process, when we sign this paper, you're basically turning over, if we sign it as it is, in my understanding of it, we're turning over carte blanche to 9 board members. They can do anything. They can make themselves salaries that we might consider exorbitant. They can take junkets to anywhere they want to go. They can change things. They can change the rules any way they want to change. They if there's a conflict of interest, they decide whether there's a conflict or not. If there's disciplinary action, they give it out. There's no oversight at all from us after it's done, in my view. So, it seems to me that after the initial board members are set, they can fire them and add their own members. So they can choose their own board. There's nothing that we can do. And so I think, and the other thing too is that I think I'm fine with $50,000 for 3 years. Right now, I think that if we give 150 and each town gives 150, that's 450,000. And if we are able to arrange other funding, talk about is 100, 200,000, that's 550 or 650,000. That's something we should be able to run this on for 3 years. I think, and I'm going to jump to my end part too. I think that what we ought to do is the first 3 years should be no split. Now, let me backtrack. So if we get out of if we decide in 3 years we want to get out, we can get out. We just don't have to pay the $50,000 anymore. But we still got to pay that 24, all those percentages. We still got to pay 60% of our tax base forever. As it's written right now, for 100 years. After a while, and the other problem is we talked about it from all 3 towns. They've got $1 million in the bank. There's no place in here where they do with that $1 million. They keep it. They spend it the way they want to. So we've got to have more oversight, more backdoor, which I'll talk about that at the end. So let me see if I got anything else. I just given you the rough draft. I got through 300 or 400 more things. They can vote themselves in. We read it today that they make all the decisions about everything. That's mainly the thing. I can just go through each part, but they do everything. That, there's no oversight from anybody but them. They're a private entity. The other problem I have too is that will they be paid or not? Do you really want somebody? Why would they spend all this time and all this expertise to take? And how much do you pay them? And so I think that's a difficulty that we're going to find in how do they get compensated? Is it either too much or too little, or that kind of thing. The other thing is that this is a lawyer question, but do we have risk? Do we have risk more than the $50,000 if somebody gets sued or something happens, any kind of lawsuit? Are we liable for any of the stuff that happens with this group that we have no oversight for? So, the other thing that I have a problem with is that if widget company X comes to Benson and it's going to pay us $100, we're going to get $100 in taxes. We're going to get 40. Forks will get 20. Guns will get 20. Alliance will get 20. That's how the money goes. But if it costs us 40 to build a road to go to it, that doesn't come out of it. That comes out of our 40. So we get 0. And so I think that should be something that should be addressed. So There's a lot of things that way, but, so on and on and on, different little pitty things, like, one of the things they said is that they get audited by a CPA firm. I think it should say an independent CPA firm. Some of the people on this board are probably CPAs. Would it be illegal for them to audit themselves? So there's a lot of issues that, there's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. It's just that we've gotta fine tune it and get it a little bit better set. Now, I've thought about this, and here's my thoughts, and this might be the dumbest thing y'all ever heard, but I'm gonna read it too. I think the first 3 years, we should put that money in, that $500,000 or $600,000 should go in, and that's what they should run it on. They should use that time with no splits. You know, they don't get anything. If the split would happen, it would just be Benson, Four Oaks, and Dunn, maybe a 50-25-25 split, where we get the money that way, and they don't get anything. They use that money to fund themselves, because $600,000 should be enough to fund themselves for them. So then maybe after that, go back to the splits, but have an end to it. So the first 3 years is like dating, where you don't have to, if you want to get out of it, all you've lost is the 150. You don't lose. You don't sign up for having that done in perpetuity. So that's the first thing. Maybe we go with the splits in the fourth year, like we've said, or we might see after we've done it, that maybe 40, 20, 20, 20 is too much. And so maybe we would change it to 50, 15, 15, 15, or something like that. So we gotta have to see. Now, I think that we got to figure out ways to control the deal. One of the ways I thought about is maybe 2 out of 3 town boards have to approve their budget. Another thing is that the other problem I had is that if they did really well and they had $1 million from their 20% in the bank, they don't have to do anything with that money. Well, they're going to spend it on themselves. You know, there's nowhere to take that money. So maybe if they have some money in reserve, that would be fine. But maybe if they have more than 200% of their annual budget, they have to push that money back to the towns in the third. So we just need more oversight and an end point for everything. It shouldn't go in perpetuity. So I'll quit.
Dean?
Everybody knows what my opinion has been the whole time through this. I just don't see the need for a line. I mean, the growth is already here, especially now Apple's going to be building their camps. I mean, it's going to be flooding back this way. Maybe 15 years ago, possibly, but right now, no. Taking 50,000 taxpayer dollars, giving to the Alliance, then you give them 20% on any deal that they do for life of taxpayers' money. So, and on top of that, I think you're still gonna have to hire an economic developer. Am I right in saying that? The way the boundaries are drawn? So that's another $80,000 to $90,000.
No, we'll have one economic.
They don't encompass all of Benson, do they?
Hmm.
You tell me that board's gonna encompass all of Benson?
Who?
You said one economic developer.
Well, I mean, that,
Aside from the line.
there'll be one group. It won't, there won't be one in every town.
But they're not handling all of Benson, that's correct.
Oh, yeah, that would never be Benson unless it's something that happens to come to us before it gets started.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
That's not the way I've read it, so. But no, I think it's a little bit too late to be doing it.
Where you saying we need an economic development?
No, we gotta have economic development. If we didn't have the Alliance, we'd be hiring one ourselves.
I'm talking
We're
about.
talking about that for
I'm saying
years.
aside from the line, are you saying we're not gonna have an economic development person? aside from the line?
We would,
A separate one for Benson.
Right.
Well, we up to Benson, but the plans is not to have one economic development for. Now, there might be somebody that works with them.
it was my understanding that wouldn't encompass the whole town, that we'd still have to get an economic developer to handle the part they do.
Well, who would handle the retail and things that are not?
The retail is not in it.
So
Yeah,
people-
so who we need an economic development person for that.
No. I mean, the retail part of it, the downtown is, right now, that's Mr. Douglas's part-time job. And they're trying now to get Benson and the Chamber of Commerce to share the cost of downtown.
So we'll have somebody address.
But it won't be involved with the alliance. Anything else to add?
That's all I got.
Okay, so.
Of course, I don't have a real clear understanding of the whole alliance. I guess my concern is, as a board, what would our, like, working relationship be with the alliance? And as far as like the legalities, who would represent the legal with me? So as far as the legal part, where we stand as a town, and as far as the money that, the funding, who's gonna be managing that?
Well, we'll still have an attorney.
For the alliance,
The reason we got the attorney that we did, that happened to be Dunn's attorney, is because they had done this before. We knew that it would get done faster and probably with less people.
Did we pay him to do all this?
Oh, yeah.
We paid.
No, the alliance gonna pay.
So something paid him?
Nobody gonna pay. There's no money to pay anybody. That's why we gotta get $50,000 in there from everybody so we can start.
Do we know how much his deal will cost? Do you have any idea how much his deal will be? Just non-benefit. How much the public law firm, how much would the deal be?
Oh, I don't know.
What, if we don't go forward with this, how does it get paid?
That, we deal with that then.
He's gonna wanna deal with it, at some point in time, I'm certain. If we say no, are we gonna look for something that Tillman has done?
We were in Dunn and we voted to move ahead. What we did was we voted to do the things to get this set up. And that was part of hiring an attorney to do.
Was that was the night, over in Dunn when all three towns were over there?
Yeah.
And we weren't gonna have a vote that night, but we had a vote anyway?
No, we were over there.
I've got my text still that we weren't gonna vote on anything, so, but we did vote on something.
But we will have an economic development. We have to. We wouldn't have an alliance if we didn't have somebody to call telephone. We have people right now calling and want to know what's the phone number of the alliance. We don't know what the phone number is. And, we've got to get that identified if we're going to do this. And there's a lot of advantages to having an alliance between these three things. For sure. What else concerned?
yeah, I have, that's it.
Ms. Holly?
Oh, I am definitely confused. I'm worse off than I was the first night. I'm serious. And when he talked about being in this situation with electricity, I certainly don't want us to get hooked up in another situation like this. Because I'm gonna tell you something, it has really cost the people of Benson a lot with the electric bill. It is unreal, and even today, it is still very high. So I don't want to see us get into something that we are not completely looked into. Huh? Seriously now, because I just don't know, and I worry about the oversight because everybody has to have some oversight. Who is going to be the people that's in charge of the oversight? Who's that going to be?
So with economic development.
It's right now, they overshot themselves. They don't have any oversight.
No. Well, there is oversight too. It may not be to the extent that you think it ought to be, but that's why we're here to talk about it. If you guys sat down and read it, and obviously you have, or you folks, then what is it that you saw that you think needs to be changed? That's the point. In other words, do you know anything that you know needs to be changed?
Well, certainly I would need to know who was going to be in charge of oversight, because I think any group needs oversight, and I have a problem with not knowing who will be in control. Now, I thought the whole gist of the program or the alliance was we put somebody on that committee to sort of be the forerunners for us. But listening to you, you're saying basically that they can change what
They
the.
can change it.
As far as that can go.
We had myself, Fred Nelson, and William Neighbors sat on the committee of 9. We had 9 people, and we had meeting after meeting about this. Now, I don't know every word that's written in this, and that's what I want to do is to find out what this board has that bothers them, and we'll go back and if we have to the attorney and get the committee back together and change them. I mean, we can change what we got here. It's not been put in any concrete.
I don't know if nobody else not first things that. I think at some point, whether it be tonight or some night, we need to go through this memorandum of understanding line by line. We need to go through this line by line. And then everybody says, well, everybody's read it. Yeah, that's true, but we need to go through it line by line.
Look, it's not, I'm sure that there's only several questions to it, it's not my time, but let me just tell you this, give you that. You're creating something. You're creating some entity that you can't control. You're not going to have control over it. And why would you even consider doing that? You know, they say, well, there's a lot of positives. Never heard a lot of positives. But I'm just telling you this. You made a statement several meetings back. No man can serve 2 masters. You still can. That's still the truth today. And Benson better concentrate on doing Benson stuff and worrying about Benson business and not worrying about what's going on in Forest and what's going on in Dunn. Because I can assure you Dunn's not worried about what's going on in Benson. Not from a positive perspective. So, you know, my point is, and I'm not changing mine, I'm not going to change it at all. I'm not, you know, I just don't want to dance with this thing. I don't want to consider this thing. If I could make a motion tonight and say, let's drop it once and for all, I certainly don't want to fund it. You're saying, well, you wouldn't mind dumping $150,000 in it. I do. I don't want to dump $150,000 in anything. Not that it's not going to be beneficial to me. I don't want to try and see. And I can promise you, once you create this thing, you're going to lose control of it. You will never have control of it. And Will Chandler made a great point. We're in something now that we can't afford to get out of. We can't get out of it. When I was town attorney, we tried to get out of it. As far as I know, Don Parker tried and looked to see if there was ways of getting out of it. I know Ike's looked to see if there's one. We can't get out of that thing. You're going to get into the same scenario. I'm not going to dive into shallow water twice.
We
Ms. Maxine,
Go on.
So I've probably been privy to more information than any of you have on it since that meeting was done. It's no secret that I was not for this when we met done, and to appease me, I guess y'all started sending me to the committee meetings. So I've been in the committee meetings, and we worked on this, and we worked on this. I'm definitely on some fence about the things. I think my biggest questions, I've got several, kind of like Max does. A lot of them Max pointed out. Like I went by this word for word, and I've been going by this word for word for months, but I've not been able to talk with an attorney about it. So most of my questions are gonna be attorney related. The biggest thing for me, y'all know I'm a real estate agent, everybody knows I'm a real estate agent, just like Commissioner Johnson just said, we are creating an entity. That alliance is a corporation. I've got questions as to whether is it legal for that corporation to be marketing properties for the town of Benson for compensation unless that's a licensed corporation. Because I know as a real estate agent, I can't. And so I don't know if that's a legality that we need to look into. If not, is that going to be a liability? My other concern with that is that we are entering into a non-ending contract, it seems, with a corporation. Now, everybody throws out 3 years because this MOU says that it's an initial $50,000, and then for 2 more years, it's $50,000 each year, is what you're being asked to agree to. My question is at the end of 3 years, the way this is written, if the board said, you know what, we're done, we're not going to pay you $54,000 at any point in time anymore, we're done with this alliance, if that's what the board is sitting here decides in 3 years. In real estate, there's something called procuring cause. So if it's an entity that comes in within that 3 years and builds, even if we say we're done with it, do we still not owe them the 20% off of all of the business they brought within that 3-year contract and have to pay that forever? That's my question there. I don't know how that ends. I know that every other contract we look at has an end date. And if we're unsatisfied with service, we're able to cancel that contract. There's no cancellation here. In fact, and I'm like, Max, I'm not going to get into bylaws because we don't have control over bylaws, but in this MOU, it says the only way that this alliance dissolves is by a 2/3 majority vote of the alliance board of directors, not of us, not of Benson, Dunn, Four Oaks, but of the alliance board of directors. So really, you're giving them the power to say, if y'all don't want to go out of business, you don't have to go out of business, and then are we stuck paying them for as long as they want to be in business? What I mean, that's a concern. And again, the makeup. I pushed very hard to get the commissioners on that board, to get 3 commissioners on that board. But the fact of the matter is, on a 9-member board, you're still only 3 publicly elected offices on this board of directors. And that means you've got 6 private individuals. And that's 2/3. So that means they can vote this alliance to do whatever they want without any public insight. They also have the power to add additional members if they want to. So I don't know. I don't want to say I'm against it. We need to do something. Somebody needs to be here to answer the phone. The other big thing, which Max has already brought up in this MOU, it says it does not cover retail. So that means, to me, if Tanger Outlets decide they want to come to 95 and 40, this isn't going to cover that. And that means we don't have anybody in the town of Benson to cover that. And that means we still need an economic development director. And that's an additional cost. Or, and I mentioned this to Jim and Max the other day, you are entering into a contract with a private entity. There's other private entities in this town that do real estate for a living. There's nothing that says that this town couldn't say, let's go take bids, which is another concern. Are we entering into a contract without legally accepting bids from other corporations that may want to do this for the town of Benson? And then, but you could go to John Doe Real Estate and say, give me a bid within 30 days of how much you would charge me on an annual contract to do the marketing for the town of Benson. And then you are entering into a contract with another private licensed organization. This has not got any competition to it. And so I don't know if that's legal or not. I'm going to throw that to Ike because that's his job. I'm not an attorney. But the other thing that I don't like about this, it says business is already located in the corridor fall under this. We just had a $70 million expansion from Chicopee. Very low, sorry. If it happens again and we vote on this tonight, then they get the tax revenue off of the business that's already here. And so why would we want to give them and that's what it says. It says business is already located within the alliance corridor. If they expand their operations, it falls under this. And so if Barry Global comes in 2 years and does another $70 million, we've just given away 60% of what we've already got. And so I can go on and on. I don't want to. Those are the big parts for me. The other big part for me is the fact that we can market everything in the world, but we're getting fined by DEQ because we can constantly have overflows in our sewage. We are accepting sewage from Johnston County, and I can't understand why we're still got their gate open if we're the one paying for the bill when we get fined every year. And so, and I know you got to be a good neighbor, but at some point in time, you got to look after your home base too. And I don't know, I'm not saying this is a bad idea. I don't like some of the things that I mentioned. We do need to have somebody answering those phone calls because I agree with them. It's here. Industry is here. And I guess we waited a long time to see what's coming, get here. And I don't know how quick I am to want to throw it away, at least 60% of it, because that's what you're doing. When you sign this, you say, here's 60% to done in 4 Oaks, whether or not it's coming or not. We're going to give you 60%. And I just don't know. Y'all. I've got a lot of ethical reservations about that. But I'll leave the rest of the questions to the attorney to see if he can answer any of those.
Your first one, I think, was, are you doing something illegal by going into business or hiring, I guess, a company, a nonprofit corporation to market for the town? No, I don't think that's illegal. I think that's legal. The other question you had specifically was, are we doing something illegal by not going out to bid? This type of contract is not legal.
Okay.
So those two, was there others? Those specific, I guess.
I think that was the biggest.
There's no illegality in the setting up of it.
Okay.
Now, and also, just, I think several of you have addressed this issue in different perspectives and calling it different things, oversight, I guess. But there's the general statute, 158.7.2 requires that all of these boards get an accounting from the alliance that shows what they spend the money on. The general statute requires them. That doesn't mean you can, I agree, you don't have a lot of ability to effectuate anything if you don't like it, but you do have the right to say, general statute says, as a public entity, the town of Benson wants to see what you spent the money that the town of Benson gave you. So just, it's not a panacea, it's not anything to, make it 100%.
To appease this, if we were to do a 3-year deal and say we'll do 3 years, and then we cut them off after 3 years, and then the alliance board decides not to dissolve on their own free will, which is what in bylaws, could you defend this document in court and say that we don't have to pay them 20% of what they procured?
No, you will keep paying them as long as they exist. That portion of it, you will, until they dissolve.
So let me get this straight. You're telling this board in this public hearing setting that we're hooking the taxpayers of this town into something that not only can they not control it, but their own board that they elect can't control it.
I'm saying that you will be required to make the payments specified in the memorandum as long as the alliance is in existence.
We don't have the right to. The only other thing, and I'm just going to, and we have beat this for I have beat this for 3 years, and this is the only concern we've had a discussion, nothing's come out of it. I don't mean we still have the Economic Development Commission that meets here in the town of Benson. That is not underneath this board control. And we've not been able to get it underneath this board control since I've been on. And so my question is, they don't report to us. We don't have any idea what or if they do anything. And so what happens to that entity that we don't control if we create another entity? And that would be my other question for that.
It's concerning for me that if we say, oh, we don't want to be involved, we have to continue to pay. That's very concerning.
And we got to continue to pay not for 10 years or 20 years, 1,000.
So this would basically be the path that we're waiting for the next board as, like the legislature, it's ongoing.
But that payment continues as long as the alliance is in existence.
That's the way it's written now.
Well, we can make changes in the alliance. There's no question about that. We're gonna have to get down and go through it again and try to correct some of those things that you say is a problem. And we'll do that.
What is preventing us from doing our own thing? I'm just asking this board. Why can't we do our own thing?
It's not budgeted. Kim's not here, but this $50,000 is not in our budget, and we already don't have a balanced budget. That was my last concern. I didn't mean to jump on that, but we already are over budget. We don't have a balanced budget, and we had an economic developer budget, and we took it out last year. So this, if we approve it and pay $50,000 a day, it comes from fund balance because we don't have it budgeted, and so it'd be a budget item for next year, which I'm assuming we'll put us, have you get, was it in the next year's budget, I guess? But I mean, that would be I mean, that's another thing as well. And so, I don't know. I think the question is, and I think this is the question, I mean, I think this is the question I've gotten from everybody, because like you said, this is only the second or third time that we've met as a board about this. And I think it's a question of what Jim said. Is it a question of, because I tell you, I don't want to keep meeting every other week if y'all don't want to move forward. I can tell you that right now. And so, I mean, that's up to y'all, up to us, on whether or not y'all even want to move forward. If not, we've just wasted a whole lot of time. Somehow money, depending on what happens.
That's just, I've not heard anything that's gonna make me feel different. And I've looked at, read it, discussed it, and everything else. I just don't see
The thing that concerns me, and the attorney Pope came back with this, because at the last meeting, the committee, said if we're gonna do this, all three towns need to be 100% into this and this and that other, and we took away that yellow line up there. Well, then Pope come back and said we've got to have the yellow line, and they moved it from 1 mile to 2 miles, or 1.5 miles, 2 miles, whatever it was. And the problem with that is that encompasses, in my opinion, 100% of 4 Oaks, so they're all in. 100% of Benson, they're all in, but that only covers about 50% of done, and so they're not all in. And so, in my opinion, if we're going to spend money, I don't care what the dollar amount is, $50,000 plus commission, whatever you want to call it. We need somebody to answer the phone that'll handle 100% of the economic development. And this, the way it's written, it doesn't do that, because it doesn't cover the Tanger Outlet retail outlets. It only covers industry, and it only covers that 2 miles. So when we get to 40 and 242, it's not covered. So we don't have anybody to go down 242, which we all know that's going to be the next one, when they widen that in a few years, hopefully. So that's the concerns that I've got. This is not an end-all, fix-all. This is a 95 memorandum. We need to figure out what we're going to do for the rest of the town of Benson. And is it fair for us to be spending 100% of taxpayer dollars on this that only covers a certain number of people's property?
And I want to add on to that too. If we're out there across beside the hotel, if there's a widget factory that's coming and a Cabela's coming, well, the Alliance is only going to be concerned about the widget factory. They're going to get rid of the Cabela's because they're not covered. Cabela's is not covered, the widget factory is. So I see that as a problem too.
And how are we going to identify what is what? Because we've already run into stuff this past year, the board, where it was a lumber company, and the lumber company said, well, I'm like Lowe's, I sell lumber, I should be retail. And our planning department said, no, you're not retail, you're manufacturing or whatever. And that disqualified them from a piece of it. And so my question is, who in this alliance is going to identify what is manufacturing versus what is retail? Because, I mean, what's the difference between, they're out of business, Benson Building Supply and Lowe's? Apparently there is, because it happened here this year.
Well, this board is not going to make that decision. This board is not going to make that decision that you're asking. So,
Well, the UDO and the land use plans of each town is probably going to be different. And the planners in those towns are going to do exactly what they do today. And when the economic development comes to pass and you've got a company to look at, then they get in and look at it against the rules they have. I've spent, Lord, I don't know how many hours on this for the last year and a half. And I came to the opinion a long time ago that if we don't expand our horizon, that we're not going to be getting too much, because we don't have the land, and the land that we have, the people that own it don't want to sell it for a reasonable price. And right now, we have the opportunity for a number of things that's going on that the Alliance would be a really big help. Now, maybe there's some things that we still need to do to make this more reasonable. 4 Oaks has already approved it. Dunn's gonna vote on it at 11. So, we gotta get together between now and next Monday and figure out what we have compared to what's been talked about tonight and come to some judgment. But the main thing that we're here to vote for tonight is that $50,000. Now, you've got to have that before you approve it. And in order to do the budget for next year, we've got to know that the alliance is going to go. Because right now it's in the budget, but if we're not going to pursue it, then that's a good story. But I think we would make the mistake of a lifetime if we dump this out now. I could give you some real figures, but I won't do it. On what it's cost us not having the alliance done by the 29th of April.
Something about property and the fact that it's not moved and it's not, people are not willing to sell. Well, substantial portions of the property on 95, either side of 95, have recently been sold, massive amounts of them. So that's an indication to me that there are things in the hopper that maybe we don't know about that are going to bring industry into this area. Substantial portions of acreage out on 95, both sides. Within the last 6 months, they've closed down. So I don't believe that those purchases were made because there was a question as to whether we might get an alliance, and if they get that alliance, we need to get that property purchased and get ready for it. So I disagree. I think things will certainly when, as William said, when it's ripe and it's almost there, then it's going to come to Benson, and I don't believe that the alliance is going to be the tool that we need to help market property for the town of Benson. And I'm certainly not for sharing it with other municipalities. You can call that selfish or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it is. I think it's probably a wise move for the taxpayers here in Benson. And again, if you're looking for a motion, I'd make a motion that we not approve the $50,000 expenditure. If I would go ahead and bring this to a head, I'll make that motion at this point.
You're out of order. The floor is not open to a motion.
Well, my honest opinion is this. I am a citizen of Benson, and I have been one that have been, because of poor judgment on this very board with elected cities, I'm still paying the price. Not only am I still paying the price, it's a lot of residents in Benson that are still paying the price. They can't afford it because the light bill is still extremely high. And to me, that's just poor judgment on somebody's part years before. So I don't want to be a part of sitting here making the same mess for somebody else to come along and have to try and clean up. So I'm just really not clear on it. I just need some more feedback on what is going on, how it's going to be managed, more oversight, who's going to be overseeing it. I just need to know all those things.
We'll get the committee back together and go over these things we're talking about and see if we can get the changes made.
Hey, Mark, I have a comment to changes. I guess what I have is a question of the board at this point as I've been listening. And I wonder if the concerns that you have had and expressed this evening, if they were dealt with by way of the memorandum of understanding, would you feel more comfortable as relates to reporting to the board, having control? true exit ramp, not only for the financial part, but for the relationship part as well. There are a lot of moving pieces to what's going on with our infrastructure right now. We probably should have been working on infrastructure a bit more 5 years ago to be ready for what's happening now. I can't believe what I'm seeing here right now. And so apparently there's a lot of bugs in the process. But I would say that this is an undertaking that can really benefit Benson in the long run. But these points that you make are valid, I do believe. And I think, if we were able to make you feel more comfortable about that by having those things on paper, would you feel that the alliance would be something that Benson could benefit?
If you're taking a poll, you can consider mine as I don't think that.
Well, I don't want to be closed-minded. I just need to know that we have some control. I need to know that. I need to know that 20 years down the road, we're not going to be indebted to somebody and out of that league, but we're still indebted to them. I don't want to be that way. I want to know what we are getting ourselves into for the citizens of Benson in the years to come. I guess that would be a yes.
I think it's important. I said before, I'll say it again. I'm willing to go to 50,000. I'd like to see a lot of changes made that I'm not sure that the other people would agree to. But I need to see those changes before I would be yes, especially the carte blanche, unabated, uncontrolled autonomy that they would seem to have. There needs to be an endpoint. And also, I don't think that split should go on in perpetuity, even if we work out every other thing. I think it should be slide and scale downward and come to some end at some point.
I think we ought to try to get the group back together, Fred, and cover these things that they have with the 9-member committee and bring it back to us. Is that agreeable to everybody?
Say it again.
You what?
I say, like I said a while ago, I think it should go on.
So you're agreeable to it?
I'm agreeable to going through it line by line and see if we can come to an agreement. I'm not saying we can, but I'm not saying they'll agree to it. But I'm saying we should go line by line because this is a contract that we need to think of it as we're from New York City, not from Gun and Forums. We're people that we don't know because they're going to help us to it. And we're going to be responsible for it, even though they meant well. And whether they meant well or they didn't mean well, that doesn't mean anything. What means is working on those pages. If you
I will entertain a motion to go back to the board and try to get these changes made in next meeting.
well,
That doesn't solve the issue. I'm gonna tell you where I'm at, and I'm gonna make committee. So if y'all vote that way, I got to go back to the meeting, and I'm gonna tell you where I am. But most of the questions I get is the fact that we haven't sat down as a board and gone through this. And so this was started in the back room, it festered in the back room until we were put on the spot for a vote and done. That's just the way it happened. We were put on the spot for a vote and done on whether or not we would want to consider it. We said we would consider it, but we didn't do anything about it. I've been at all these meetings. The fact of the matter is, this is an everlasting contract. If this is something y'all want to do, we need to have a work session, as I said it last time, when you're in closed session, and we need to sit down and go through this contract so that everybody has the extra questions. If I go back to a meeting and I make all these changes, And I don't mean it's ugly, and then I come back to y'all next month, and we sit down, and y'all say, no, I don't like this, and then I got to go back to another meeting, I'm telling you, my time's more valuable. So I'm just gonna tell you, if y'all want to get together and work it out, let's get together and work it out. If 3 or 4 of you say, we're not gonna do this no matter what, quit wasting everybody's time, and let's just go back to what we need to do and worry about Benson. That's reality.
I know where I stand.
I'm in the latter group, so.
Yeah.
With changing the contract, it's
You make a motion.
not really, we're not going line by line, right? We're not really talking about changing the language, and you're talking about going through it and then
Changing it line by line.
just to see if it's something we can work out, and if not, then we feel agree or not agree to it.
Well, you know, I get what everybody's saying, but they're absolutely against it. I get that. They probably don't want to go through line by line because they're against it no matter what. But I think, you know, if we say to them, I think we should show them the respect of, if they say we're against it, they say, wow, so we're just against it. You know, I think we should go through and say exactly why we're against it, exactly what we want, and let them say no. They probably will say no. If they say no, they say no.
I think it's been spelled out succinctly tonight why there's problems with it. And, you know, I don't know how you can change the fact that you can, as far as I'm concerned, you're creating something that I don't want to have to toy with, and that I don't want not just myself, but the future generations of this town having to deal with in a very negative way. And that's, you know, in my opinion, that's what you're going to have.
If you do my suggestion, you're just risking $150,000. They get no commission for 3 years. And it's, again, the dating before you get married. You can see what it works, and then in 3 years, we'll either be going, this is the worst thing we ever did. Lost our 150s, too bad. But we won't pay anything after that.
If they break anything, you be paying 20% for life.
No, I'm saying, you are in that contract, the main one I'm thinking of. That's what I said. They tell me no, I'm telling you.
Well, our purpose of our meeting tonight was for the expenditure of $50,000. So, you know, we get that done so that we can get the budget squared away. We get together and go through it line by line and see if we get the changes made.
Because you paid the 50,000, you commit yourself already, right?
Why don't you make a motion that we
It's piecemealing it along the way. That's what it is. It's nothing more than the snail trail to get there. That's what it is. Go ahead and kill the deal. Or either.
What if we made a motion that we put the 50,000 in if we pass if we come to an agreement with the MOU?
That's how we got here from Bill.
Yes.
That's pretty simple.
I mean, realistically, because I mean, that's how we got here from Dunn, was let's push it off and let's see where it goes. I mean,
Pass it, see
the
what's in
only,
it.
the biggest issue I've heard from everyone, if you cut the case, is no control. The only way you're gonna have control over somebody is you put them on time Benson payroll. That's the only way you're gonna have control over somebody. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, there's no way you're gonna create an extra entity. You're gonna create a board. Those board members are gonna change. We're all gonna die one day, and those board members are gonna be different. And nobody in this board is gonna have control over that board unless they're on town of Benson payroll. And that $50,000 a year is not enough payroll to have that control. It's just the way it is. If that's the case, I mean, that's what.
What did you make a motion for?
He didn't
He
make
didn't
one.
make it.
Oh, I thought you said
Jim's the only one that made a motion tonight.
$50,000.
I made a motion and mine was out of order. I'll still make my motion to not approve it.
Well, we're gonna take a look at what the things that's been brought up here tonight.
We asked for a motion about the expenditure. I'm moving that we don't allow $50,000 to be spent on I-95, I-40 Crossroads of the Mayor Economic Development Alliance Incorporated proposal.
I thought you made a motion that
Did not make a motion.
$50,000 if
No.
they didn't, if we got the changes.
Well, we
made.
can use, his motion's fine because we'll either vote it up or down, and then if we vote it down, we'll make another motion. That would say the other motion.
That is the only motion.
If we vote,
You can rewind it.
If his motion passes, then we don't have to make it.
Say that again.
If his motion passes, where we vote down $50,000, there would be a reason for me to make that same motion. We put the $50,000 contingent on the fact that we get an agreement on the MOU.
Motion's on the floor, it needs to be voted on before we consider any more motion.
What is the motion?
The motion is that we do not approve the expenditure of $50,000 to support the I-95, I-40 Crossroads of America Economic Development Alliance Incorporated proposal.
Is there any questions? All in favor, say aye. All right, raise your hand. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I made a motion.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.